working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Hello, Mama Angeles. Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. Joining me today is Chriselle from our EBC Vietnam Bureau. Chriselle, hello.
Hello, Alma. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I am Chriselle Yacuna from our EBC Vietnam Bureau, bringing you the latest updates in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines. An Indonesian woman suspected of planning a suicide bomb attack in the southern Philippines was arrested Saturday in a pre-dawn raid.
Jakarta eased coronavirus control measures, citing recent slowdown in infection rates.
In Myanmar, hundreds of NLD supporters hold a rally in the capital city, Naypyidaw. Voters are expected to return Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy, or NLD party, to power at the November 8 polls, only the second since the country emerged from decades of outright military rule.
Indonesia air carrier Garuda Indonesia paints its Airbus A330-900neo to make it appear to be wearing a protective mask.
First, an Indonesian woman suspected of planning a suicide bomb attack in the southern Philippines was arrested on Saturday in a pre-dawn raid, according to the military. The arrest comes less than 2 months after a pair of female suicide bombers blew themselves up on Jolo Island in the Muslim-majority Sulu province, which killed 15 people and wounded 74 others. Security forces blamed the August 24 attack on the Abu Sayyaf militant group. The Indonesian woman was identified as Reski Fantasia Ruli and was the widow of an Indonesian militant killed in Sulu in August, according to the Joint Task Force for the Restive Region in a statement. She's also believed to be the daughter of 2 suicide bombers who killed 21 people in an attack on a Catholic cathedral in Jolo early last year. A vest rigged with pipe bombs was seized along with other improvised explosive device components from the Jolo Island house that is believed to be owned by an Abu Sayyaf leader, according to the military. Ruli was detained along with 2 women who are married to members of the Abu Sayyaf.
The Department of reported that close to 150,000 overseas Filipino workers, returnees, have been assisted back to their home provinces in the last 5 months. As of October 11, Dolly said a total of 248,468 Filipinos have been reunited with their families in the different parts of the country. The government has started sending home OFWs en masse in May. Of the figure, the most number of returnees so far was recorded in May, 25 to 31, which totaled to 25,002. It was followed by the repatriation from August 10 to August 16 with 17,085. Dolly added that the latest batch of OFWs comprised of 2,458 individuals were sent to their respective home provinces on Saturday, October 2.
In Jakarta, the capital, eased coronavirus control measures, citing recent slowdown in infection rates. Jakarta Governor Anies Baswedan said the capital will ease strict social distancing curbs starting Monday as the increase in coronavirus cases stabilizes. Jakarta had brought back the stronger restrictions last month as its health system was becoming overwhelmed. The fresh measures will last 15 days at least, according to a statement from the local government. People can return to offices and dine in restaurants as long as the capacity is limited to 50%. Meanwhile, in gyms, cinemas, and tourism sites will be allowed to operate only at a maximum of 25%.
Heavy Wednesday has caused major canal to overflow and flood many areas in Pak Chong district. Crystal Mapa from our EBC Bangkok joins us live. Hello, Crystal.
Yes, hello, Chriselle, and yes, this is our update from Thailand today. More than 200 households and a temporary closure of Khao Yai National Park last weekend is caused by overflowing of major canal named Lam Takong in Pak Chong district of Nakhon Ratchasima in the northeastern part of Thailand. Since last Wednesday, the province has been battered by heavy rains and triggered runoff from the national park to residential areas. The banks of Lam Takong Canal burst on Friday night, causing water levels to rise from 50 centimeters to 1 meter. The temporary closure of Khao Yai National Park last weekend is due to the risk of mudslides and flooding. Thai media reported that this is the worst flooding in Pak Chong district in 15 years, as more than 200 households in 3 districts are affected. Authorities have set up evacuation shelters in schools and dispatched flat-bottom boats to assist people for evacuation. Back to you, Chriselle.
Thank you so much for your update there in Bangkok. Crystal, stay healthy.
Thank you, Chriselle. Reporting live from Thailand, this is Crystal Mapa. We live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, the online news of the government of Vietnam said the country will offer the second batch of medical supplies to help Myanmar contain the COVID-19 pandemic. As the infection rate is rising quickly in Myanmar, Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister Pham Binh Minh on Friday extended sympathy to State Councilor and Foreign Minister Aung San Suu Kyi and Minister of International Cooperation Kiao Tin. Now, Minh reiterated Vietnam's solidarity and support for Myanmar in the fight against the pandemic, announcing that Vietnam will offer the second batch of medical supplies to help the country overcome this hard time. Last July, Vietnamese ambassador to Myanmar, Lee Quoc Tuan, presented $50,000 as a gift of the Vietnamese government to help the country combat the COVID-19 pandemic. All right, nearly 2 million babies are stillborn every year, or 1 every 16 seconds, a figure that could worsen due to the COVID-19 pandemic, according to a new UN report. Most stillbirths, or 84%, occur in low-income countries. But high-income nations also face this challenge. Losing a child at birth or during pregnancy is a devastating tragedy for a family, according to Henrietta Fore, Executive Director of the UN's Children's Fund, or UNICEF. Many of these deaths could have been prevented with high-quality monitoring, proper antenatal care, and skilled birth attendant, she added. UNICEF issued a report alongside the World Health Organization, the World Bank Group, and the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs. The partners warned that a reduction in health services due to COVID-19 could cause nearly 200,000 additional stillbirths over a 12-month period. Meanwhile, hundreds of NLD supporters held a rally in Myanmar's capital city, Naypyidaw. Voters are expected to return Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy Party to power at the November 8 polls, only the second since the country emerged from decades of outright military rule. Take a look.
Di party would have no shit. And it is when you know me, is a vida, you know, Negrian, you know, Mivariale, Naguria, Disabe, will be get after all. ကျွန်တော်အဖေရစအဲ့ဒီတော့ကျွန်တော်လည်းဒီစိတ်နဲ့ပဲဒီ NLD အမေစုဗိုလ်ချုပ်ကလွှဲရင်ကျွန်တော်ဘယ်သူမှအယုံကြည်မရှိဘူးဗျကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ဒီအောင်နိုင်ရတဲ့ကြောင်းဆိုတော့ကိုဗစ်ကအရေးကြီးတဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ပြည်သူလူထုရဲ့ဟိုဘာလို့ကျွန်တော်တို့ရဲ့ဘယ်လိုပြောရမလို့ဆိုတော့ဟိုအနာရှိရဲ့စနစ်လက်အောက်ကိုရောက်သွားမှကြောက်လို့ကိုဗစ်တဲ့ကျွန်တော်တို့ပို့ပြီးအရေးကြီးတယ်ဒီဥစ္စာကြီးကျွန်တော်တစည်းတစ်လုံးစုပြီးမိခဲ့တဲ့ဟာကိုကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီလိုပဲမြင်ပါတယ်ခင်ဗျ
However, opposition parties in Myanmar are calling for November's election to be postponed as the country scrambles to control a coronavirus surge. According to a Reuters report, Myanmar's health ministry reported 2,158 new cases of coronavirus last Saturday in a record daily rise, along with 32 new deaths. The Southeast Asian nation has locked down its biggest city, Yangon, and air and overland travel in the country has also been stopped. With medical services under pressure as coronavirus cases spike, a convention center in Myanmar's largest city, Yangon, was transformed into a new COVID-19 hospital for 500 patients. All right, Chriselle and I will be back right after this short break.
It says the best defense is still containment.
We are in uncharted territory.
At the World Health Organization said governments should try to avoid massive lockdowns that are so punishing to communities while recognizing that these are sometimes unavoidable.
What we want to try and avoid, and sometimes it's unavoidable, we accept that. But what we want to try and avoid are these massive lockdowns that are so punishing to communities, to society, and to everything else. So we don't want to flip from, you know, no cases, everything's open, a few cases, everything shuts down again, because that's exactly the sort of scenario that we want to try and avoid. What we really need to focus on is ensuring that as cases come back, and they will and do come back, and this virus is clearly showing that it's got a lot of life left in it, the vast majority of people in the world are still susceptible to the disease, and we need to make sure that we're also focusing not just on restrictive measures, but on the surveillance, on the testing, on the tracking, on community empowerment, on education, on everybody taking their responsibility, the community, their responsibility and the government their responsibility, and that we try, in as much as possible, to minimise the broader effects in society through large-scale, complete national shutdowns. This may be unavoidable where the disease has got out of control again, but we shouldn't accept that in every country the return of cases should be seen with an immediate return of the need for lockdown restrictions at a national level. There are many things that can be done between those 2 points, and we should make every effort to do so in order to keep our social, economic lives open, and particularly schools and other vital services. If you catch this disease in the early stages, and even not so early sometimes, as many countries like South Korea and Japan have seen, and you work hard on surveillance and cluster investigation and isolating cases and quarantining contacts and ensuring that we can break chains of transmission, even though many of the cases can be asymptomatic and sometimes it's hard to find them, but by focusing in on these symptomatic cases, by focusing in on shutting down those chains of transmission, you catch up. That's the problem. You start behind. And then, like in any race, the further you start behind, the harder it is to catch up. The closer you are to the finish line or the starting line when the race starts, the more chances you have to catch up. And then when you catch up, you can speed up. And the problem in many countries is they're getting caught behind the line and then they're not accelerating quickly enough. And then they're getting themselves into situations where the disease is very, very established and very, very intense. And then there are no options but to shut down and lock down in many situations, particularly at a municipality or a city level, because it becomes very, very hard to stop the virus unless you separate people from other people.
The United States has lifted a long-time ban on Indonesian Defense Minister Prabowo Subianto over alleged human rights violations and invited him to Washington next week, according to his aides on Friday. A former son-in-law of Indonesia's longtime dictator Suharto, Subianto was denied a U.S. visa in 2000, reportedly because of his rights records. Take a look.
Hari ini saya melaksanakan lawatan kunjungan resmi pertama sebagai Menteri Pertahanan Republik Indonesia, dan negara pertama yang saya kunjungi adalah Malaysia. Saya juga sudah adakan pembicaraan dengan Yang Mulia Menteri Pertahanan Malaysia. Banyak persamaan pandangan, pemikiran kita banyak yang sama. Karena itu saya sangat optimis.
Dalam perbincangan dua hala dengan Bapak Haji Prabowo, kedua-dua pihak memperakui masih terdapat banyak ruang kerjasama yang boleh diteroka oleh kedua-dua negara dalam aspek kerjasama pertahanan. Perkara lain yang
Subianto, a former commander of the notorious Kopassus Special Forces, allegedly ordered the abduction of democracy activists in the final days of Suharto's rule in 1998 and has been accused of committing atrocities in East Timor during its brutal 24-year Indonesian occupation. U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper made the invitation, and the trip would take place October 15 to the 19th, according to the Defense Minister's spokesman Daniel Anzar. The U.S. Embassy in Jakarta refused to comment, citing confidentiality over visa rules. Amnesty International described the U.S. decision to lift the ban on Subianto as catastrophic for Indonesia's human rights. Since he became defense minister last year, after several runs for president, Subianto has traveled the world intensively to negotiate arms, procurements, deals in a bid to strengthen the country's defense. Washington has been pushing Southeast Asian countries to counter China's influence in the region, but Indonesia has been very careful not to get entangled in the power struggle.
Thousands of protesters set fire to barricades and police posts in the Indonesian capital Thursday as opposition mounted to a controversial new investment law critics say will harm labor rights and the environment. Tens of thousands of people have protested in cities across the archipelago since Monday's passing of the bill, which seeks to attract foreign investment by cutting red tape around taxation, labor and environment regulation. Labor activists and green groups have slammed the legislation, however, with Amnesty International saying it is catastrophic for workers. Nearly 13,000 police deployed Thursday to block access to the government buildings in central Jakarta failed to stop protesters from making their way to the heart of the capital. The protesters set fire to barricades and torched several bus stops and police traffic posts. Indonesians also expressed their anger online, with hackers blocking access to Parliament's website and changing its name to Council of Traders. They also created an account on the Indonesia e-commerce platform Tokopedia and put Parliament on sale for pittance, according to media reports.
At least 18 people were killed and more than 40 injured in Thailand when a freight train crashed into a bus taking passengers to a religious ceremony. Take a look. The morning collision, around 50 kilometers east of the capital Bangkok, toppled the bus and sheared off part of its roof. More than 40 passengers were rushed to nearby medical facilities for treatment, according to Provincial Hospital Director Somba Chuti Manukul. 4 are in critical condition and 8 remain under observation out of the 23 admitted to the hospital. There were some 60 passengers in the chartered bus traveling from Samut Prakan province to a temple in Chachoengsao, according to province governor Maitri Tritilianond. Now they were planning to offer yellow robes to monks, a traditional ceremony held within a month at the end of Buddhist Lent, according to reporters. Now, Thai Premier Prayut Chan-o-cha instructed authorities to investigate the cause of the crash, according to a government spokesman in a statement. Travel throughout the kingdom has been thrown into disarray by a big storm hitting the region, leaving roads in poor conditions and some provinces deluged in Shinhai floods. Deadly accidents are coming in Thailand, which regularly tops lists of the world's most lethal roads, with speeding, drunk driving, and weak law enforcement all contributing factors. Thailand has the second highest traffic fatality rate in the world, according to a 2018 World Health Organization report. Though a majority of the victims are motorcyclists, bus crashes involving groups of tourists and migrant laborers often grab headlines.
Elderly residents and small children clung to inflatable tires as soldiers and police used ropes lines to get them from safety, rising from floodwater on Saturday in Cambodia's western province of Battambang. Hundreds of families in 3 Cambodian provinces, Pursat, Battambang, and Pailin, have been forced to evacuate amid extreme rainfall ahead of the arrival of the tropical depression across the Mekong region. A 2-year-old child and a 57-year-old man have drowned in the flood, Siak Vichet, a spokesman for the Cambodian National Committee for Disaster Management, told AFP on Saturday. Authorities do not yet have a clear picture of the extent of the damage or people affected, but expect the situation to worsen on Sunday. In central Vietnam, almost a meter of rain has fallen in recent days. 5 people have died, with 8 still missing as floodwaters inundated more than 33,000 homes and forced more than 26,000 people to evacuate, the official disaster management authority said. The national highway linking North Vietnam to the south has been flooded, while airlines canceled more domestic flights, local media report. Roads also turned to rivers and waters, inundated properties in Thailand's Nakhon Ratchasima province as residents scrambled to sandbag and move their belongings to higher ground. Provincial Governor Vichien Chataranotai said that Patchong district was the hardest hit, with 8,000 households and 12,000 people affected. About 200 homes were inundated. Authorities were distributing food packages and urged people to evacuate to community shelters. He told reporters on Saturday that the water is 3 meters deep in some parts. The Khao Chai National Park was closed this weekend because of heavy rain and landslides.
To the weather here now, Pagasa said almost all parts of the country will experience rains on Monday due to Tropical Depression Nika, a southwest monsoon, and a low pressure area or LPA. The southwest monsoon affecting central and southern Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao will bring monsoon rains over central Luzon, Pangasinan, Cavite, Batangas, Occidental Mindoro, and Palawan. Now, this means these areas will have moderate to heavy rains according to Alzar Aurelio of the Philippine Atmospheric Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration, or PAGASA. The rest of the country will experience scattered rain showers and thunderstorms due to Nika, and the LPA last observed 670 kilometers east of Hinatuan, Surigao del Sur. Now, Mr. Aurelio also said that the LPA may develop into a tropical depression within 48 hours. Now, Nika was last tracked 245 kilometers west of Sinait, Ilocos Sur, moving west-northwestward at 15 kilometers per hour. It's packing a maximum sustained winds of 55 kilometers per hour near the center and gustiness of up to 70 kilometers per hour. All right, Chriselle and I will be back here in ASEAN in Focus.
Mga kababayan, naharap na naman po tayo sa mabigat na pagsubok na ito. Ito yung COVID-19.
I hope everyone's okay. I hope everyone's safe.
Nandito po kami para hikayatin pa po kayo na maging matibay.
Mas maging matatag po tayo and just stay positive po sa lahat po ng nangyayari ngayon.
Mga mahal kong kababayan, lampasan po natin, pagtagumpayan po natin ang pagsubok na ito.
Stay strong sa panahon po na to.
Huwag tayong mawawalan ng pag-asa.
At inihikayat din po namin kayo na sana makinig po tayo sa ating gobyerno.
Sumunod muna tayo sa gobyerno dahil yun yung pinakamainam na paraan para hindi na lumagana pa yung virus.
Let's all stay at home.
Spend time with our loved ones, with our families.
At higit po sa lahat, make sure to pray for everyone, pray for everything that is going on right now, especially our frontliners po who are sacrificing their lives to take care of everything.
Higit sa lahat, patuloy tayong lumapit, magtiwala at manalangin sa ating Panginoong Diyos.
Lagi tayong manalangin dahil yung po ang may pinaka-mainam na solusyon sa lahat po ng mga problema natin.
God bless you and your family. Please stay strong and keep our faith.
Tuloy po ang laban.
United States Department of State has recognized the improvements in the Philippines investment climate in the latest 2020 investment climate statements. The USDOS mentioned reforms made by the Duterte administration have helped improve the business climate in the country. And I quote, "The Philippines continues to address investment constraints," and quote, noted the 2020 investment climate statements, which was released in September. Among the reforms cited by the USDOS were the update of the foreign investment negative list in 2018 that allowed 100% foreign ownership in internet businesses, insurance adjustment firms, investment houses, lending and finance companies, and wellness centers, as well as allowing foreigners to teach in higher education levels and increasing foreign participation in the construction sector from 35% to 40%. It added that the ease of doing business and efficient government service delivery law of 2018 has improved transactions with the government through streamlining requirements and automating services. The USDOS said, and I quote, touted as one of the Duterte administration's landmark laws, it created an anti-red tape authority under the office of the president that oversees national policy on anti-red tape issues and implements reforms to improve competitiveness rankings. The authority also monitors compliance of agencies and issues notices to erring and non-compliant government employees and officials, end quote. It noted pending bills in Congress that are seen to have a large impact on the investment climate in the country. These include the Public Service Act, the Retail Trade Liberalization Act, and the Foreign Investment Act, which will open more sectors to foreign players. The USDOS said foreign ownership limitations in many sectors of the economy constrain investments. It added that despite of improvement in the investment climate, the country's foreign direct investment, or FDI, is relatively low compared to its neighbors in the Southeast Asia.
The coronavirus pandemic has forever changed the way consumers shop online, according to the UN Trade and Development Body, or UNCTAD. In a study of thousands of people in 9 countries, UN researchers said that more than half reported they now opt to shop digitally more than before the health crisis. The greatest shift to online shopping has happened in emerging economies, according to the survey, which examined purchasing power in Brazil, China, Germany, Italy, the Republic of Korea, Russia, South Africa, Switzerland, and Turkey. Now, most product categories saw increased virtual sales of between 6 and 10%. The biggest gains were in information and telecommunications and communications technology and electronics, followed by gardening, do-it-yourself items, and pharmaceuticals. Despite the busier virtual cash registers, the UNCTAD survey also revealed that average monthly expenditure per person has dropped significantly. It's believed that this is because people everywhere have postponed larger purchases, with spending on tourism and travel down some 75% since before COVID-19.
The Indonesian Directorate General of Customs and Excise hosted the 4th Joint Customs Middle Management Program, or the 4th JCMMP, on 6th to 7th of October. Representatives from 8 ASEAN member states and Australia attended the 2-day virtual event, built as the networking platform for the future customs leaders in the region. The event promoted knowledge and experience sharing on handling emerging issues in the region and strengthening the relationships of ASEAN Customs Administration's middle management level officers. Participants discussed the various topical issues, such as lessons learned from the COVID-19 outbreak, coordinated border management, eradicating drug smuggling, managing illicit trade in waste and other environmentally sensitive commodities, risk management, cooperation between customs and tax authorities, and establishment of effective joint border protection to combat transnational organized crime. Indonesia's Director General of Customs and Excise, Heru Pambudi, stated that the current vice chair of the World Customs Organization for Asia Pacific, Indonesia remains committed to promote cooperation and partnership among middle management level officers in the region. He asserted that the JCMMP would become a flagship program and an example for other blocs and regions in the world in preparing future customs leaders. On the last day of the program, participants participated in the fireside chat session with the Directors General of Customs attending the event. They exchanged views on the post-pandemic challenges, technology leverage, collaboration across borders, and strengthening the Asia-Pacific engagements in multilateral forums. The 5th edition of the program is scheduled to be in 2021 in Australia.
And the Economic and Financial Committee, or Second Committee of the General Assembly, is now at its 75th session. Here, Assistant Secretary General for Economic Development from the United Nations, Elliot Harris, talked about economic policy changes facing the global community due to the pandemic. Let's listen in.
Sila ang mga kinikilalang bayaning may mahalagang papel para makamit ang kalayaan at pagbabago sa Pilipinas. Pero sa panahong ito, may mga bagong bayaning nakikipaglaban sa sakit na lumaganap sa buong daigdig, ang COVID-19. Ang ating mga frontliner, gaya ng healthcare workers, mga doktor, nurses, medical technologists, at iba pang health professionals, mga pulis, sundalo, security guards, mga tauhan na nangangalaga sa seguridad at mahahalagang pangangailangan ng bawat komunidad. Ang mga bagong bayani, ating pasalamatan. Kilalanin ang kanilang sakripisyo at serbisyo para sa lahat.
Hi everyone! I'm Nikki Pacal Arsena. Abangan niyo po ako and the rest of the Barkada and your favorite OPM artists on Letters and Music. Prime time na! Mula Monday to Friday, 8 p.m. only on Net 25. See you!
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business every Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. Open for Business, from vision to action.
Passengers here are in for a ride. Taxi drivers here need nerves of steel, while passengers here can get an eyeful along the way. Rev taxis accommodate passengers all over the world. The Driver, our series. Rev.
Hey there, Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net25.
Of several staple food items, such as the vegetable oils and cereals, hit multi-month highs. In September, the Food and Agriculture Organization has reported. The UN agency publishes a monthly index that tracks the international price of the most commonly traded food commodities. Last month, the index averaged nearly 98 points, up more than 2% over August, and 5% higher than in September 2019. FAO said new forecasts for global cereal output, as well as stocks and trade, all point well-supplied markets. The cereal price index stands at 13.6% higher than this time last year, led by higher wheat price quotations. Meanwhile, the vegetable price index rose 6% in September, reaching an 8-month high, bolstered by rising quotations for palm, sunflower seed, and soy oils in line with the firm global demand.
Indonesia air carrier Garuda painted its Airbus A330-900 Neo to make it appear to be wearing a protective mask. The national flag carrier painted this special mask design on one of its Airbuses in support of the government's Let's Wear Masks campaign, which aims to curb the spread of the coronavirus infection. The newly painted aircraft will mainly serve domestic routes as well as limited international flights to Singapore and Japan. In August, President Joko Widodo called for intensified efforts to encourage the public to wear face masks following a surge in the number of daily COVID-19 cases in the country.
Foreign diplomats win over hot city and council officials during football tournament. Greg Bassler reports.
The Hot City Community Football Tournament is a way of celebrating while promoting unity amidst cultural diversity in Hot City, also known as the City of Lower Hutt. This beautiful and inclusive city is the 7th largest city in New Zealand and a home of peoples from various cultural backgrounds. One of the highlights of this year's tournament is the game between foreign diplomats and Hutt City Council officials. Officially known as Lower Hutt Multicultural Tournament, this annual football event highlights the diversity of culture in the city by encouraging communities from various cultural backgrounds to participate and play football, one of the popular recreation sports in New Zealand. It is mainly hosted by the Hutt Multicultural Council in partnership with the Hut City Council, Philoros Trust and Sports Zone, and Domino's Pizza.
We have been organizing this tournament for last 6 years. This is the 7th year. We are organizing this as actually sports is a culture, and our aim is to promote different culture in the Lower Hutt or in Wellington region.
This year's football tournament was held under COVID-19 Alert Level 1, wherein there were no size limits on attendance and physical distancing required. And for the first time since beginning in 2017, the tournament included a friendly game between foreign diplomats based in Wellington region and Hut City Council officials. Philippine Ambassador Jesus Domingo initiated the organizing of the diplomatic team named as the Wellington Diplomatic Corps Football Club, which is composed of diplomats from Cuba, France, Hungary, Malaysia, Peru, Saudi Arabia, Solomon Islands, Timor-Leste, and Vietnam. All team members, along with Ambassador Domingo, who acted as a team manager, expressed their excitement to play in the tournament.
We finally have it here, a friendly match with Hut City Council here on October 4. So, we were able to do 2 rounds of practice, so it's all for fun. And ultimately, our job as diplomats is to build stronger relations with our host country. And football is all about diplomacy, building great relations among people, among communities. So I can't think of this is a really great way to really strengthen relations between New Zealand and our respective countries.
They have to win because this is our first official match as the diplomatic corps team in Wellington. So it's an obligation to win our first match.
Lovely that we could get together and enjoy a football match. And it's been a long time I haven't played, but I take a chance and it's good.
I'm very happy to participate in the Lower Hutt Council's event here. Just first to exercise and also get to know with the locals here. So very good to involve the diplomatic corps.
On the other hand, the Hut City Council team included Mayor Campbell Barry, city councillors, and other officials. The mayor himself was also thrilled to play the game against the diplomatic team.
Oh, it's great to be here on the Hut Rec today, here in Lower Hutt, on a beautiful sunny afternoon, and yeah, it's fantastic. Looking forward to getting out on the field with the Hut City Council team against the ambassadors, and it should be a good clash.
As both teams played with their hearts out, it was evident that members of the Wellington Diplomatic Corps Football Club have more experience in playing the game. After several minutes of running, dribbling, hustling, and scoring, the diplomatic team won the game resoundingly. The trophy for the winning team was sponsored by the Embassy of Nepal in Australia and the Non-Resident Nepali Association in New Zealand. But at the end of the day, the game was not only about winning. After all, it fostered friendship and camaraderie between and among members of the diplomatic and Hut City Council football teams. From the Hut Recreational Ground in Lower Hutt, this is Greg Bessa of Eagle News New Zealand Bureau. We live in interesting times.
And the Economic and Financial Committee, or Second Committee of the UN General Assembly, is now at its 75th session. Here, Assistant Secretary General for Economic Development, United Nations, Elliot Harris, talked about economic policy challenges facing the global community due to the pandemic. Again, let's listen in.
This crisis has exposed the strengths and weaknesses of socioeconomic structures and policies in different countries, and it has heightened existing vulnerabilities. It has exacerbated inequalities, disrupted global supply chains and trade relations, and virtually shut down several key employment-intensive sectors. At the same time, the crisis has driven mounting systemic risks in the financial sector. Financial market volatility and capital outflows from developing countries rapidly exceeded the dramatic levels experienced during the global economic and financial crisis of 2008. And although central banks intervened massively to put a floor under collapsing asset prices and to inject critically needed liquidity, thus averting a full-blown financial meltdown, the financial vulnerabilities that were rising even before the outbreak of the pandemic have not yet been fully resolved. Persistent liquidity constraints, rapidly accumulating debt levels and rising risks of debt distress, and the rapid contraction of foreign direct investment have compounded the financial vulnerability of many developing countries in particular. Overall, the pandemic has pushed the global community even further off track with regard to the 2030 agenda. Against the backdrop of uncertainties related to the future developments with the pandemic, with financial distress and mounting fiscal constraints, and deepening stresses on the multilateral trading system, the report finds that the crisis poses a great risk to the progress made towards the SDGs thus far and threatens the future achievement of global sustainable development. The report analyzes these issues of global concern through a forward-looking policy lens. For example, it identifies the great potential that central banks can have over the longer term in fostering an enabling environment for boosting investment in sustainable development and encouraging the transformation towards a sustainable financial system, thus accelerating progress towards sustainable development. The core message of the report is the centrality of global cooperation and the critical importance of reviving the spirit of multilateralism. This is particularly key for addressing the issues presented in the analysis. International cooperation and policy coordination form the basis of efforts to combat illicit financing flows and to effectively tax the burgeoning international digital economy in order to support countries' resource mobilization efforts. In terms of combating illicit financial flows, the report identifies, for example, policy proposals that have been put forward to help prevent tax avoidance by large firms and to reduce tax competition among countries as well as tax arbitrage. Concerning the taxation of the digital economy, the proposals underscore the need for a more inclusive international cooperation framework and increased corporate transparency, as well as a wider and more inclusive discussion on international tax rules. A renewed spirit of multilateralism is particularly critical in addressing long-standing trade issues, such as intellectual property rights, technology transfer, dispute resolution, and agricultural subsidies, as well as dealing with the stresses to the multilateral trading system caused by the rising prevalence of unilateral measures and bilateral or plurilateral trade and investment agreements. The acceleration of e-commerce as a consequence of the pandemic highlights the importance of competition law and policy in creating an inclusive competitive environment for new and local e-commerce and avoiding the monopolization of these increasingly important markets by the dominant global e-commerce platforms. The report underscores finally that the full participation of all countries, and particularly of the developing and least developed ones, in the international discussions and negotiations around all of these issues is critical to ensuring that the benefits of global trade are more equitably shared, and that trade can continue to play its important role as an engine of growth and sustainable development.
All right. Thank you, Chriselle, for joining me today. Thank you very much for helping me out.
Thank you so much, Rama, for having me today. Once again, I am Chriselle Yacuna from our ABC Vietnam Bureau. Stay updated in the news of the dynamic ASEAN region. We live in interesting times.
That's the latest news in the ASEAN region. Amal Angeles. We live in interesting times.